Hey everyone, welcome to Force with Luke. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can disable your automation and validation with one single checkbox through custom metadata. It's going to be an interesting one, stay tuned, and I'll walk through it on the video on the computer. So let's jump right in. So often with data loads, it can be very time consuming to go into each individual validation or automation automatically and have to disable them. I'm going to show you how with one single checkbox, we can disable all of them at the same time or turn them on at the same time. This is hugely beneficial, not just for data loads. I'm going to try and explain it simple, very quickly. I have on the screen a house, and on that house has 5 lights. It's a mansion, and the lights in this case equal automation or validation rules which we're trying to disable. Instead of turning them off one by one, we're going to create one checkbox which turns them all off, all on off, on off, on off. Makes it much easier instead of having to walk around the whole house and do it individually. So let's jump into Salesforce and find out how to actually do this. Okay, so I'm logged here into my sandbox environment, which is a Trailhead. The first thing we need to do is set up our custom metadata. And to do that, go to Setup menu in the top right, search for custom metadata, and you'll be given the option for custom metadata types. You'll see all of your existing custom metadata types in here, as well as the new one which we're going to create. So click on New Custom Metadata Type button, and this will give us a screen. Now, if you're familiar with creating custom objects, then this screen should be familiar to you. We have to give it a label, a plural label, and give our object a name. So essentially all we're doing here is setting up an object, a record. And in that record, we have a field which we're going to reference in all of our other validation and automation. So I'm going to call mine toggle, and the plural label is toggles. And don't forget to give it a description. So something which is meaningful to other administrators or anybody who may look at this in the future. I'm going to say custom metadata to store all of the toggles. You can describe it, you can name this object however you wish, but for my purpose of the demo, I'm going to call it toggle. Then hit save. And once we've done that, we then have our custom record. So you can see here, it's much the same as if you've created an object before. You have the standard fields, we have custom fields, we have validation rules, we have page layouts, all of that good stuff which you usually have on your custom objects. So we're going to create a custom field, and this is the field which we're going to reference in our validation and automation. It's going to be a checkbox, as I mentioned, and then we need to name the checkbox. So I'm going to call this automation toggle. You can, again, name it however you wish, but this is the value I'm doing for the demo. The default value is unchecked, and then change the API name to is automation toggle. If you've watched my video, 10 mistakes as an admin, I'll leave the link above. Then you'll know that you need to follow naming conventions, and it's best to remove underscores from API names. Now again, give it a description. Make sure somebody who's looking at this knows exactly why we've created it. You don't have to put help text, but you can if you wish, and leave the visibility settings the same. Once we've done that, we can press next, and it will be if we want to add it to the page layout. Again, we don't necessarily have to add it to the page layout, but you can leave it as is and then press save. So now we've created our object and we've created our field. It's on the page layout. The only thing left now to do is create a record. And if we click on this Manage Toggles button, this will take us to the place where we can create this. And this is what we're going to reference. So give it a label. Again, I'm going to use automation toggle and change the automation toggle name. And you can see our field which we created, the checkbox, is at the bottom of the page. So we're going to check this to true. If this is true, we want our validation, we want our automation to fire. If it's false, then we want to disable all of that. So I'm going to leave it for true for now, and then once we update our validation rule, you'll see how that comes into play. So now what we need to do is update our validations and our processes to include this new checkbox which we've created. So I'm going to do it on the account object. We're going to object manager and then account. You can do this on any object that you wish, and you can also update your existing validations to include this new checkbox. I'm going to create a new validation rule on the account object, which enforces the account name. So you can't make any changes to the account name field after it's been created. This isn't probably the best example, but I'm going to create it just for demo purposes. Give it a description, make sure it's active, and then we're going to insert that custom metadata that we created. So go to insert field, and I have an add-on here, which is organizer, which automatically formats my validation rules. So if it looks slightly different to yours, it's just because I have that on. But if you go to advanced formula, then you should see the same thing. Go to insert field, select custom metadata, our toggle, automation toggle, and then our automation toggle field. That then inserts it into the formula editor. I'm going to use an AND statement here because I want to check, one, that the custom metadata equals true, that checkbox, and two, if the name field for the account has been changed. So I'm going to insert the name, input it into our AND, and then add the is changed clause. So this is checking, is our custom metadata true, and is the name field changed? Then we want to fire our validation rule. Again, this could be any validation rule that you want. You just need to add that custom metadata tag in and equals true or equals false, depending on how you want to toggle it on or off. Just add that into your validation builder, and then you'll have a new criteria. So next, we want to check the syntax and just make sure that it's all working correctly. And we passed first time, which often doesn't happen if you're used to working with validation rules. And then we're going to input our error message and display where we want it to display on the page. Now this is active and we have our validation rule. We're going to test it on the account object to make sure that it's working. Now I would expect, because our metadata is true and because I'm changing the account name here, that we get the error message. I'm going to press save, and you can see I've got the error message. So that's working as we would expect. So let's go back into our custom metadata now, change it to false, and see if we get the same error. And we shouldn't, right? Because this is the whole point in the video. If this doesn't work, then we're going to struggle trying to get people to watch this and be thankful of this. So let's go back into our custom metadata via setup menu and searching custom metadata, and then into our toggle. You can press manage records, and that takes us back. And within there, we can toggle our checkbox on or off. So it was true. I'm going to change it to a false value, unchecked, and then press save. And then I'm going to go back to my account record and try and fire our validation rule again. So let's change the name, press save, and you'll see we no longer get the validation rule. So if this metadata is built into all of your validation rules, that would toggle them all off or all on at the same time. Now, as I mentioned, this also works for Process Builder. I'm going to show you how to do that now. It's much the same as the validation builder, but for those who are slightly less familiar, then I'm going to show you how to do it on the screen. So I'm also going to show you how we can do this within Process Builder. Now, if you've already learned how to do that from the first bit, just adding it into the criteria, then you can skip this part of the video. But for those who don't know, I'm going to do it on the screen. Go back into the setup menu and search for Process Builder. I'm going to create a new one for the purpose of the demo, but you can do it in existing ones as I mentioned. I'm going to call it account processes. As per best practice, we should only have one process builder per object, and then we build our criteria into that. This is going to be for all the account automation. I'm going to do this when a record changes. Let's add our object. As I said, it's the account object. I'm going to fire this only when a record is created. Again, this is just for the demo. This probably isn't the best example of a process builder, but it's just to show you how to add the metadata into our criteria. I'm going to update the account rating field, and that's hot, warm, cold. I'm going to update that to warm on creation of an account. So here, let's select our custom metadata, automation toggle. If you've renamed it differently, then it will be whatever you've named it. Make sure that this is on formula evaluate to true. It doesn't work with any of the other options that we have here. And then make sure equals true or equals false, depending on how you want the toggle to work. So we have true if we want it to fire, false if we don't want it to fire. I'm going to set it to true in this example and then hit save. Now the next thing we need to do is update our records. So I'm going to update the account object. I'm going to update the rating field. So let's call it update account rating. Select the account record which fired our process, started the process in the beginning. Select the account rating field, and I'm going to make sure that the pick list option is hot. So theoretically, on creation of a new account record now, we have our metadata ticked. It should set that field to hot. And if it's unticked, it should just remain blank. Remember to activate your process, as a lot of people forget to activate and then wonder why it doesn't work. So activate that and we'll try it now on the account. This one should work. I'm expecting this to be set to hot. And you can see the account rating field now is hot. So that worked as we would expect. Now let's try that again, but turn the metadata toggle off. I'm going to toggle it off, go to our account, and then try it again. This shouldn't work. So I'm going to type in that, go to details, and as you can see, the rating field has not been set. So the same thing as we had with the validation, but it also works with process builders, also works with Apex, also works with a whole host of other things if you want to include it. It's a great single way to turn on and off your automation without having to do it individually and wasting time that admins, consultants, solution architects don't have. So build this into any new functionality that you build, and it's worthwhile to go back and update your existing config as well. Hopefully you found this video enjoyable. Hopefully it gave you a bit of insight into how you can build this. If it went too fast, please let me know. If it went too slow, please let me know. But please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notifications so you don't miss any of my future posts. And you can check out my blog, www.forcewithluke.com. And on there, I have a blog post for this exact video, which we just created. So if this was too fast, then that has a step-by-step on how you can do this. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time,